In this Sean Speaks episode, I get to speak to you from my heart about an important part of parenting, family life, and a parent's mental health and mindset. I want to help you thrive in how you speak to your kids and how you speak to yourself. Sean Speaks is a live teaching I did with a Zoom room filled with my VIP members. It's interactive, it's spontaneous, it's raw and unedited. If you'd like to go deeper with me, visit my website. About 99% of the families I work with now, it's done through Zoom, but it wasn't always like this. For a long time, I wasn't using Zoom at all. I didn't know how to use Zoom. Pre-COVID days, most of the coaching that I was doing would be in person. And one of the most memorable families that I remember working with was this family who had been through a lot. The mom and dad had married and they had made a blended family, and they had 3 sons. And they blended when the sons were right around age 10. And they blended because both of the wife had passed away tragically, and then the woman came from a spot where the dad really had abandoned the family, was not in the life. And these two adults came together in love and connection, and they blended these 3 sons together in a really wonderful way. The blending was done so well that the sons, they even called them mom and they called them dad. There was no step terms. It was just like going very well. Now, here's something interesting, that the dad in the story was a very high level police officer, right? And now I can't speak for every officer I know or every military person. I do have a bunch of friends who are firefighters. And normally the way that these men and women are, they're very, very rigid. They're very much very structured. They like accountability. They like order. They like obedience. And Sargent Dad was definitely like this. He was very much into my way out of the highway. If you look at on my parenting assessment, Being the Best You, if you read under the term command and control parenting, under the reactions, which you can find on page 7, command and control, direct, remind, make threats, and then it describes this. This is Sargent Dad at the time. You tell someone what to do. Go brush your teeth. It's time for homework. This is my Sargent voice. Do this right now. Get off your phone. Don't forget your lunch. Wake up. Get dressed. You remind your child of what they need to do. You might hound them, and you might command them even nicely. You might yell, you might make threats. And now this parenting now, the boys were older now, and they're all in their late high school years. And life had become hard for Sargent Dad. Why? Well, because if you have a strict type of authoritarian type parenting, all the research will show you this too, and lots of books will tell you this, or people like me will tell you this. By the time your kids reach high school, your authoritarian style and approaches are going to start having some negative effects and some backfiring on you. Your kids might go down the path of lying to you or hiding the truth from you. Why? Because they don't want the conflict. They don't want to deal with the punishments. And so it's much easier for them just to make up big lies or white lies. Option 2, they might become avoidant of you. Why would I want to hang out with my dad or my parent? Because they're just telling me what to do. They don't give me freedoms. They don't share power with me. They don't work with me. Like I'm a 15-year-old young adult. I have power. I'm different than them. I want to do things differently, and how I do it. I'm a senior in high school. I have different feelings. Or they could just go option 3. They could become defiant. Right? No, I'm not doing that, Sargent Dad. And that could be big blowups, or it might even be the worst out of all these things. You might actually, one of the impacts of command and control authoritarian parenting is people pleasing. That could be even some of the harder ones to deal with, where the person just becomes so afraid of the parent figure that they just people please. And so Sargent Dad now is in a crisis because he doesn't know what to do anymore. The boys are all reacting with him in some of those options, which I described. And the mom is like, what's happening, Sargent Dad, Sargent husband? I don't want you doing this anymore. The boys are older now. They don't like it. I don't like it. What's going on? The Sargent Dad is just shocked. And this is so parenting right here. especially with teenagers. Our kids bring out the worst in us, but they bring out the best if you just slow down and you take a breath and you realize, like, this is the beauty of kids. They invite us to be the best versions of ourselves. They invite us to be more than ourselves. They invite us to be like healed and to slow down and to think like the way that I might be doing it, there could be a better way. I'm doing a physical therapy program right now. And the team is working with me has said straight up, like, hey, we're going to look at your posture. We're going to look at your symmetry, your knees, your shoulders, and we're going to break you down, and it's going to be in pain. And then we're going to rebuild you into something healthy. And that is kind of what we're doing right now. For those of you listening to my voice, thank you for listening. But here is another way of thinking about where you're at right now is, you know what Sargent Dad really struggled with? Is something I think I struggle with. I think something we all struggle with is parenting is so freaking emotional. We don't get what we want. Now, when Sargent Dad doesn't get what he wants, in his past, he would go back to his tried and true. He wanted that order. He wanted that structure. So he wouldn't want to sit in those uncomfortable feelings. And so he did something about it. He reacted with command and control, with threats, with punishment. But you know what? I'm no different than Sargent Dad, and you're no different. You know what Sargent Dad was struggling with is he was really struggling with being comfortable, being uncomfortable. That's freaking parenting, though. And marriage too, family life. Let's just take a quick glance at some of these things. What do we do as normal, lovely human beings when we are feeling uncomfortable around our kids and we are not managing our emotions well? Well, here's what we do. We get passive aggressive. We get prideful. We defend ourselves. We repeat ourselves. We rewrite history. We do right or wrong parenting. We come up with rules or rigid thinking or logic to our kids. We try to pep talk. We try to argue with emotional young human beings. We avoid them. We avoid through screen time. We might poke them. We might get angry. We might have righteous anger. We could self-abandon, be like, you know what? It's too hard. I'm just going to give it all up to them. I'm nothing. It's all about them. We could go the opposite side. We go into selfishness. If you're married and you have a co-parent, that person could go independent, or they could sabotage you, or they could, undermine your parenting. What do all these things have in common? What they have in common is that the person doing them is really not comfortable being uncomfortable. And here's the good story. Sargent Dad really loved his boys and he loved his wife. And he realized, like, for me to develop more harmony in my home, for me to develop a deeper bond with my boys, I got to change. I got to realize that when things don't go my way, I got to be a big boy. I got to manage my emotions. I got to do better. Because if you think about it, what another way of looking at yelling at our kids is, you know how like stupid that is? How childlike that is? We're yelling at a child. Why? Because we didn't get what we wanted. That's so funny and sad. It's like a dark drama right now. We're yelling at a child who came out of our bodies, or we put them in someone else's body, or we adopted them out of someone's body. We love them so much because we are not comfortable being uncomfortable, and we did not sit in that emotion. So you know what we need to do for us to become the parents we want to be, the teachers that we want to be, because our kids are going to learn this from us. We are teaching our kids every day about emotional regulation, for better or worse. We've got to look ourselves in the mirror and realize that when we cave into our kids, let's say they are hounding us, they want something, they ask us over and 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 over. Oh, it's so annoying. And what do we do if we struggle with setting healthy boundaries with our kids in that moment? You know, humaning is ourselves, and we end up doing a reaction, which is called caving or rescuing or just giving in. You know what that means is in that moment, we really gave up. We gave up in that tension of it's uncomfortable right now and I want the pain to go away. So I'm just going to cave into them. You know what's really hard? What's hard about parenting young kids ages like 7 and under is it requires a lot of physicality. It requires us a lot of getting up. like actually moving our bodies, to go make eye contact, to put our hands gently on them, to give them hugs. It requires a lot of that. And it's easy to be like a lazy parent when you have kids ages 7 and younger. It's so much harder actually getting up off the couch and being like, hey, I really cannot, have you jumping on the couch. The couch is for sitting. And so you either get off the couch yourself, or I will help you get off the couch. Like, that is hard to say. And that's actually hard to do. Then to go take and walk over to the couch or roll over wherever you're on the couch, and then actually touch a 3-year-old child or a 7-year-old child and walk them gently off of a couch. You see where I'm going? It's just so hard. And that is parenting, though. So here we are on this Monday Mindset call. I just want to say, let's do it. Let's step in and every day become more comfortable being uncomfortable. We can do it. We can do it by loving ourselves, by filling our minds with love, by filling our minds with a timeline of how precious these times are, and how we are not going to be parents with children who live in our house forever. We're not going to be parents of teenagers forever. This is a special, sacred time in our lives. And if Sargent Dad can do it, well, then I know that you can do it. Parents, thank you for letting me be a positive voice in your life. I love you and I love your family. If you're sick and tired of those same painful patterns in your parenting or the same painful bad behaviors in your kids, then what are you waiting for? Join me in my VIP membership. I'd love to speak with you and give you the specific tools that you need.